And we're back with another episode of the Lakers Fast Break podcast. It's another snack pack for you. Snack pack, snack pack. It's Gerald Glassford coming right back at you here from Lakers Fast Break. Pop Culture Cosmos, where we cover the latest news and trends of pop culture each and every week, twice a week, wherever you get your podcast, plus also as well Game Source and Inside Sports Fantasy Football. Of course, Joe Soro, who's heading on his way to Detroit, new hairdo and all. He is the man behind Ox 1947 at LakersBall.com. Plus, also as well, he owns a great company, Simblades. Please support him today. Simblades, Simblades with the Y.com. Also as well, our good friends at Lakerholics.com. Will the feud continue? Will the battles continue over the 14th spot on the roster, which we'll be discussing today? Please go ahead and check out the latest news and information today on the feud that's dividing fans all over the place. And you can find a little bit of it at Lakerholics.com. Plus, also our good friend Stone Hansen. I did reach out to him today. He's on vacation and he's relaxing and deciding what next chapter of what he's going to be doing here soon. Hopefully, it's going to be with us. And I told him, thank you for allowing us to go ahead and get a hold of Steven. He gave us the idea to go ahead and do it, so we truly appreciate it. But you can check out what he's done recently with the NBA draft right there for you at Upside Swings NBA Draft Podcast. Plus, also as well, our good friend John McCalion, 50 pounds down, 80 more to go. He's walking 10,000 steps, so he also gives you updates on a whole lot of other things, opinions, and just talk about some great conversations. You can find that today at the John McCalion channel on YouTube. If you can go ahead and support everything that we do, including giving us a subscribe. In fact, since you miss Joe so much, go ahead and click on his beady eyeballs right there on the lower right-hand corner of the screen. So you can subscribe today to get the latest notification on when we go live on the air of Blue Magic with the latest Lakers Fast Break podcast. Also, as well, I'm going to go ahead and reach out to see if they are doing a Lakerholics spotlight tomorrow, which I don't know. I'm in Vegas here and the odds aren't good, but we'll find out what we can do for you there. But if you can support anything that we do, like us and follow us on social media, you can also get the latest videos on the Lakers Fast Break and many of our spots there. And if you could do all that plus a 5-star review wherever you get your podcasts, it is sincerely appreciated. Well, before we hit to the weekend, it's the controversy that still keeps on going and going and going and going. And you could either look at it in a funny way, like Blue Magic here is, with Laker Tom versus Jamie Sweet is the biggest feud since Tupac versus Biggie. And you could take it with a little bit of lightheartedness, or you could go ahead like certain parts of the fan base, like Lakerholics.com. And they're not the only ones, too. There's some vicious back and forth if you search it out and you seek it out on the Lakers fan base areas about what the Lakers should do with their 14th and maybe even their 15th slots on the roster. And obviously, they indicated that they want another big man, but the big men are starting to dry up. The options are becoming fewer and fewer. The Lakers seem to be playing a waiting game. Is it for someone like Christian Wood, or is it for someone like Bismack Biyombo? We'll talk about that on the show, if it's still a wise idea to go ahead and continue to pursue them, and how things might have gotten a little bit easier for the Lakers with a signing in Chicago today. We'll talk about that on the show as well. But first up, first man here is a good man indeed. He's the madman from Toronto. You just got to go ahead and make sure he gets out of Toronto traffic to go ahead and talk about what's going on with the Lakers. Good man indeed. You got to go ahead and check him out anytime he's here. It is the Magic Man, Sean Grice. And Magic Man, great to have you here, my friend. Devotion saying feuds are good for the fan base. They bring people closer. I don't know. That may work in wrestling, but I'm not sure if it does always here. But not these guys right now. But your opinion, my friend. This is a subject that has divided a portion of the Lakers fan base in regards to whether or not we should get Christian Wood, whether or not we should trade for Christian Wood, and then also the other side on Bismack Biyombo's end, as far as the fan base that's clamoring for him. This seems to be a touchy subject with fans, and I know it's the slowest time in the NBA season, so absolutely does this come up through the cracks and it become a big issue with us here at Lakers Fast Break and other places as well. But your thoughts, my friend, on this whole situation going on, especially after Ayo Dosunmu signs a 3-year, $21 million contract with one of the rivals for Christian Wood, the Chicago Bulls.
That's correct, Gerald. That's a bit of a fly in the ointment for them, right? Because instead of signing a qualifying offer, he just signs a multi-year extension, and good for that young man securing a nice little bag. But he waited it out, Gerald. He waited it
He
out.
he waited it out, and it was unclear whether or not he was going to get something above what I think a $5 million offer was.
Yes.
Yeah, he actually turned down. He did get more than that, which is surprising. I know that Chicago had like what 8 million or so left in the
Yes.
kitty before they get to the tax apron, so they had a little bit to play with. I would have actually gone and split it 4 and 4, 4 for him and then 4 for someone else, but if you think he's worth 7, it's not a huge overpay in my opinion, even though
No.
he offensively he is challenged. A good defensive guard, and again, someone that hopefully will be a good part of their future going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if he blossoms a little bit offensively, Gerald, he's similar to a Bruce Brown. Not going to call him Bruce Brown like yet, but the defense is there, like you said, and with just a little bit more fine tuning on the offense, he could find himself in a Bruce Brown role in 2 to 3 years at the end of his deal. But yeah, that pretty much dries up Christian Wood's money opportunity with the Bulls. They've decided to go in a different direction, and again, with the history of knowing the Bulls and their ownership with Mr. Reinsdorf, he will not uh, under any shape or form go over the tax for Christian Wood. If Christian Wood was just a moderately passable defender, I think you might be able to convince somebody like that who's near the apron to do it. But at this point in time, Gerald, I mean, as much as the Lakers options are running thin, so are Christian Wood's options.
Absolutely. Thank you through the wire. Truly appreciate it. One of my more classic Laker hats, and of course, obviously representing as well with the jersey is Magic Man indeed. Once again, it is the Lakers Fast Break. We truly appreciate you watching and listening as well. Truly appreciate it. Thanks so much again. We are still trying to find out whether or not we're going to have a Lakerholic spotlight tomorrow, whether it's going to include one of us with Jamie Sweet or Jamie Sweet. It's going to bring on Laker Tom, and Laker Tom, that situation is still ongoing as we see at Lakerholics.com. But when it comes to the divisiveness that Laker fans have, a part of it is because of again the nature of Christian Wood, his attitude, the fact again that and I don't blame anybody, like just Jamie Sweet, for instance, who's extremely against the idea and prospect of bringing Christian Wood on here. I mean, 7 teams in 7 years, that's obviously not very good. But
Nope.
when your options are running a little bit dry, it's either make a trade or get whatever is the best of the bargain bin at this point in time.
Yes, Gerald, because of it, like as you were trying to explain to Jamie a couple weeks ago, the bargain bin looks like it's halfway full because we've waited so long already. If you wait a couple more weeks, the bin's going to be empty. That's kind of what Gerald was saying. Like the bargain bin is going to be empty, and then you're left with zero options, and you have to go back to DEFCON 5 again for the backup center spot and finding minutes to fill the void there. So again, Gerald, I'm with you. I think Palinka and the Lakers, they're gonna bide their time here. it's not a case of blanking or getting off the pot here with Rob. He's afforded himself, and a lot of teams have afforded themselves an opportunity here to just wait and see.
Hmm.
And for all intents and purposes, you would think that Christian Wood and his representation would be the ones being trying to be aggressive here with finding a suitable spot for him to land.
Yeah, you would think, but again, it's always holding up. It's always about the bag. It's always about the bag in the short term, and not about the bag, not about the long term play, which I think is a mistake in this case because again, he's already got a reputation that's not very good at all. And at this point in time, it looks like he should go ahead and try out the better options. The better option with him right now would be a good run with the Los Angeles Lakers.
Yeah, it's this is the it's a mutually beneficial move if he signs with the Lakers for the vet min, Gerald. And I realize some people would say, "Oh well, if he signs for the vet min, he could sign for a little bit more somewhere else." Yes, he could, but the most he could sign for right now is somebody willing to give him the MLE, and nobody's going to be willing to give him the 12 million MLE at this point.
No, but
But
somebody like with a
could
trade
split it.
exception,
Yes,
trade
like
could still do
yes,
that. Like for
yes,
instance,
like Gerald was saying.
the Dallas Mavericks, but the Dallas
Yeah.
Mavericks don't want anything to do with him.
No,
Miami,
and
my
you can expect if somebody's got the Dallas Mavericks on the phone, there's going to be somebody who thinks, well, you know what? If they want to give us him and he wants that kind of money, then they're going to pony up and take one of our questionable contracts, and that's probably another divot in that hole because Gerald, you're right. The Mavs do not want to deal with Christian Wood. They've kind of solidified their roster at this point in time. And getting into the weeds with him on a sign and trade could, that might be fool's gold, thinking you could get an attainable or workable asset for trading that contract. It's just that's too dicey.
that is too dashly indeed. Sky Dweller wants to know, Magic Man. First up, actually, a question as I told you on the email that I forgot to ask you, and I do apologize that for the best Lakers chat room that's out there, Lakers Fast Break. A, do you play 2K, which I do, but not the latest ones because I kind of revolted against them after the microtransactions they pulled out there in recent years. But I did play, I think the last one I did play is 2K20. If I not, yeah, 2K20, 21. I'll get into it a little bit more as soon as I can on the next 2K game, but 2K24 with Kobe on the front. And then second, what did you make for dinner today, according to Sky Dweller?
All right. So yeah, not online, but yes, I do. So if anybody wants to play online, we could start that too as well. Do a
Okay.
Lakers fast break
2K
watch.
tournament. There you
Yeah,
go. That's I'll be
exactly.
down
That
the line.
sounds fun to me. And what did I have for dinner tonight? Well, I have some chicken fillet that's in the microwave right now. I bought some corn I went to the farm today, so I bought some corn. I got some nice fresh apples. It's always good going to the farm, Gerald. You get the best. So I've got some nice chicken fillets in there with some angel pasta.
Sounds good, my friend. Always a good combination indeed. But once again, it is the Lakers fast break. It is the Magic Man Sean Grice and me, Gerald Glassford. Thanks so much for watching, listening. We do got a nice little crowd here. Truly appreciate you starting your weekend with us. I will say Condor Magic Man's is very wholesome according to Condor. Good eating. There you go. Very well rounded. Absolutely. Obviously, compliments to you from that, from Condor right there. But when it comes to Bismack Biyombo, who's the other name that's out there, and that's someone who wanted to go ahead and give a little bit more time to today. I've actually just poo-pooed that idea because of what he does is so repetitive for what reasons you got Jackson Hayes for, you know, and then also as well his free throw shooting, and I'll bring that up how bad it is. I forgot how bad it is, but it is bad, and it's always been bad. But yes, he is a nice powerhouse at 6'8", does have still have some athletic ability to block shots and protect the rim, but he can't give you anything offensively. I think that's why I've been so adamant about trying to go ahead and look in another direction.
Yeah, absolutely, Gerald. Look, even in the playoffs, out of 16 teams, I think we finished 12th as far as a half court offense is concerned. So you were one of the worst half court offenses in the NBA during the season. Obviously, it replicated in the playoffs, Gerald. Bismack Biyombo won't help us in either fast break opportunities or in the half court. As Gerald was saying, he's just so limited now offensively that he can't help you in transition by rebounding and running, because he might be able to do one of those on on a singular possession, but it's hard for him to do both now because it like Gerald was saying, at this point he's like 6'8.5", barely 6'9". He's got almost no
Well,
lift.
but Christian Wood is only 6'9" too,
That's true. Fair enough. Fair enough. Wood is has a little bit more athleticism, Gerald, which makes him a
and he's
slightly,
younger.
and he's younger, which makes him a better rebounder at this point. So I'm with Gerald. I mean, it's almost as if you're filling one hole if you sign Biombo, but even if you get to the playoffs, you're still going to have to fill that hole, and he doesn't fill any of the needs that we have, and it would just be a wasted 15 minutes for 65 games because there's no way you could play him in the playoffs. I would not put Bismack Biyombo on a playoff roster, Gerald.
I will say right now, though, it's not good if you go Bismack Biyombo. And I know Mark and some others out there in the chat are really pushing for him. The thing is, though, if you look at his stats, not only has the stats gotten worse, but the fact is, why did Phoenix, who is in need of a backup center, and Bol is not a prototypical backup center, and their options there are limited, especially with what they can do. Why didn't they go and reach out to Bismack Biyombo once again? Well, if you take a look at the numbers, because he played an extensive amount of minutes for them, it's not like he didn't play any minutes for them. He did play an extensive amount of minutes for them. I will say though that unfortunately you didn't get the best results,
Mm-mm.
and yeah, as far as that's concerned, because when you look at it, 37% from the free throw line. Actually, it's weird because you look, he started out poor, under 50%. He actually brought himself up when his time as Orlando to a 65% free throw shooter, then has trickled down and down and down and ended up last year with 37% for the free throw line. And at this point in time, I'm assuming you're not going to get much better.
No, not at this point in time. I mean, the only person I remember being able to switch that like from season to season, Gerald, but he reverted back, was Andre Drummond, and Drummond was about 10 years younger
Yeah.
than Biombo is now when he decided to
He became a decent free throw shooter.
he really shot the ball, worked on his mechanics, and Gerald's right. You could tell he really worked hard on that. At this point in time, in his mid-30s, Biombo's not going to turn from a 37% free throw shooter into 75% or even 70%. No, it's not going to happen. So I just think there are just too many negatives on his ledger, Gerald, than there are positives, and there are positives with Biombo. No, there's no question about it. Nobody's trying to diminish his potential impact for what he does well. But the fact remains is that the Lakers have too many fundamental issues at a backup center spot that Biombo doesn't fill those needs. So I think it's at best a last resort.
Once again, it is the Lakers Fast Break. It is the Magic Man, Sean Grice. Please go ahead and check him out anytime he's here, right here at the Lakers Fast Break. It is Gerald Glasser as well. Thanks so much for watching and listening. We are talking about the final spots on the roster and when they might get filled. Please, almost to 1,000 subscribers. And as Blue Magic says, please hit the like and subscribe to get the latest notifications on when we go live on the air with the latest Lakers Fast Break. Truly appreciate the kind words from Joshua and everybody out there in the chat. Truly appreciate everything that you do for us right here at the Lakers Fast Break. But my friend, it is just so concerning to me that this issue is still so divisive. I mean, you've seen the rhetoric back and forth at Lakerholics.com. I know our audience has been both amused and concerned all at the same time. And Joe's new T-shirt that he's going to get made, it says "We love the drama." So I'm kidding when I say that. I'm kidding, but when it comes to what you're seeing though with Christian Wood, obviously there is a small part of the fan base that wants to go ahead and get Christian Wood by any means possible. That does include a possibility of a sign and trade that was
Mhm.
suggested by both Mark Stein and Sam Quinn, who retweeted the thoughts of Mark Stein about that
Mhm.
possibility. Of course, Dallas wants to trade him. They don't want him. And it was just very, very weird that they wouldn't want another big man who can block some shots. Yes, his defense is lousy, but he brings so many things to the table offensively. You'd think you'd still want to go ahead and keep that guy around, especially because you're limited with a forward slash center option that can actually do anything for you at this point in time on that team. But again, it just shows 7 years, seven teams. I understand why Jamie Sweet has said in the past couple of minutes that he is going to try and make a show tomorrow and do a show tomorrow for the Lakerholic Spotlight. Still not sure yet on Laker Tom. So again, I offered our services instead in case Laker Tom can't make it. But Christian Wood is a divisive, option for someone
Mhm.
who averaged 17 points last year.
Absolutely, drilled. And it's kind of funny for somebody who doesn't get a whole lot of national exposure. Like, he doesn't get talked about a lot at all. Only really on social media, Gerald, and amongst hoopers who really pay attention to the game, that we respect the offensive repertoire.
But
Every
remember, I was the first one, and I've mentioned this to Empire now because Empire says he's getting way more airtime than he deserves, and I agree with you,
Yes.
100%, Empire Jeff. Again, one of our fellow stations, Lakers and Five, who I have respect for, they've been actually in our chat and have been a great part of our chat. They have a very successful Lakers podcast, and they've devoted the last umpteen episodes to it, Christian Wood. Also, as well, you go to Locked On Lakers, you go to Silver Screen and Roll, you go to all these other Lakers shows, and they're devoting all their time and space to Christian Wood. It is that it tells you A, it's very slow for Lakers. B, they've actually signed a lot of players and they've actually done a good job with what they had already. So there's really not much left to even concern yourself about. And C, it just tells you how slow it is right now.
Yes, very very slow. That at this point, a marginal player on the fringes who's got a lot of skills, but has been on 7 different teams in 7 years. Went to 3 different high schools. As Gerald had said, his time at UNLV wasn't Rocky Road ice cream either.
I proposed that original trade. There was at the time when he was a 15th guy, just showed a little promise here and there. I proposed him,
Mhm.
I think Derrick Rose and Markieff Morris at that time.
Mhm.
Before the Lakers went on that run, it was actually early 2020. It was actually January
Mhm.
before the pandemic started, and I
Yeah.
proposed to Laker Tom on this show about doing a a trade where it would net those guys because they were all riding the pine in Detroit. I thought they would
Yeah.
be a valuable pickup for all at that time. Sure enough, we got Markieff Morris, and you know what happened there later on that year. But my friend, I tell you what, I've seen him develop over time and become a good player in this league at times. But the headaches he leaves is part of the reason why that he's in the situation that he's is right now.
Yeah, it is drilled. It is, and the issue, aside from, even if there was no behavioral or personal issues with the person, with the man, the conflicts he creates, and yeah, are created in the environment he's in, whether it was in college, high school, what, regardless, is that he's never been able to understand, or his representation, that if he went to a structured environment and fit into a role, it would sell itself, and he would sell himself. It wouldn't need to be all this hoopla, but there's all the. I agree with Empire Jeff. There's all this hoopla over this potential deep cut on on your bench, who may or may not be a starting caliber center for you. I'm just at this point, Gerald. This situation kind of feels like that. You remember on those really hot days, Gerald, where that fly was
Mhm.
near the open window and it won't go through. Like you're kind of pushing that fly swatter just a little bit close, and he knows the window's there, but he's just being a pissant, literally,
Yes.
and won't leave. That's kind of what this situation is for us. It's almost turning into a Kyrie 2.0 situation where it just seems like it's like the Twilight Zone. It's like the monsters on Maple Street. We just keep talking about the same thing over and over again. And you're right, it's a slow new. This is the molasses of NBA news, from the middle of July to about the middle of August. Closer to September is when it's just quiet.
And I just mentioned to Sky Dweller that, because Sky Dweller was saying it's likely that Wood wants to come home. He's from Long Beach. We've already discussed that before on the show. If he wanted to come home so bad and he already knew the situation as it was, he would have already signed the contract already, because I'm sure the Lakers have already reached out to his management team. They've already reached out about the possibility of signing him. And there's a waiting game going on. The Lakers are just saying, basically, you want to sign it? Come on down. You don't? You don't. We're not going to go ahead and pay more for you. We're not going to do a sign and trade for you, or else we would have done that already. With Christian Wood and his representatives, they're trying to go ahead and say, okay, we want to go ahead to where a good spot for our client is, whether it's the Lakers somewhere else, but we want to make sure we don't want to get paid the veteran minimum along with it.
Yeah, and you know what, I could totally understand that mindset. I get it. You think that a vet min, or taking less than what you think you're worth, is somehow sending the message that you're willing to be pushed around, or you don't respect yourself, or. And I get it. There might be those internal discussions that you have with yourself, but um, Gerald, looking in the mirror and telling yourself that you need to be better is not an easy conversation to have. I had one with myself about a month ago, had one 2 years ago. You just need to have these difficult conversations with yourself sometimes and realize that maybe it's not everything else around me. Maybe it's me. I'm not sure if he has. Hopefully he has. But if he found his way into a situation where a team could insulate him, and cushion him from himself, basically. So his behavioral issues. One, okay, so you have behavioral issues. Well, in the NBA, it's usually not a good idea to end up on a young team, or a team that's already dealing with some kind of crisis or tumult in a locker room. So
Mhm.
basically, get rid of teams like, and he's already been there, New Orleans or Orlando, Charlotte. Those teams would not do anything for him. So then you look at teams that have vets. Well, you can't go to the Heat anymore because now the Heat have four centers on their team. You can't really go to the Warriors. The Warriors have signed their fair share of front court players at this point. Phoenix, no. Even though they have a team full of vets, they've already filled up their roster. They probably gave him a look too and said no thanks. Gerald, the Lakers are his only option if he wants to put himself into a position where he cashes in next summer, whether it's with us or somebody else. We don't really care. We don't really care. We care about the Lakers. So if Christian Wood's a Laker, we will root for him. If he's not, to hell with him. But until then, right now, it's looking like we're the only suitable option for him. If the end, like if he wants the gold at the end of the rainbow, the Lakers are really the only place he can get it, Gerald. They are.
I mean, you could also think Golden State, but Golden State just signed Dario Saric. You
Yeah.
could think Miami. Miami's always been talked about when it concerns signing Christian Wood, but then again, they signed Thomas Bryant. So again, you would have another situation where you're competing for time with someone else. And when you look at it, Empire Jeff TV, who I just subscribed to, so go ahead and subscribe to Empire Jeff TV with his podcast today on YouTube. He made some good points, and he's been a great part of our chat in the past few months as well. One thing to think of is that he may be waiting for the Lakers to offer him a starting spot if he
Mm-hmm.
takes the minimum, like Drummond did in 2021. He also says, because I told him I wouldn't offer it, but I would give him a promise that he has at least a decent shot if he plays well in training
Yeah.
camp to go ahead and do so. And he said, I can see him trying to hold out for it because at this point, there's nothing for him left to lose. The only thing I say is that you're probably right. At this point, there's not a whole lot left to lose, unless the fact that you're waiting out on an injury or you're waiting out on possibly being shut out of the NBA altogether. Because if the NBA wants to shut you out, they will make you persona non grata.
They will, Gerald. A couple of years ago, Ennis Cantor and Derek Favors found themselves still in the NBA, and now both cannot get an NBA contract.
You notice we're not
Unfortunately,
talking about them either.
yeah, no, we are not. And the game changes very quickly, and it wasn't that long ago. And Gerald will agree that Ennis Cantor and somebody like Derek Favors could average around 8 to 10 boards a game, but skills diminish very quickly. Uh, if you haven't improved them already, but especially after around 30 years old, if you're a pigeonholed as and those two guys were unfortunately as kind of low post offensive rebounders. If you haven't expanded your game, you're not going to find a role for yourself. And Gerald's exactly right. No Laker fan just talk about signing Cantor or Favors.
Absolutely. So right now, what we see is an issue with the Lakers, what options that they have left, and Christian Wood is there, right, probably at the best of the
Mhm.
list. But the Lakers could be stubborn. They could go ahead and bring up Castleton and give him a full contract, even though he, as we saw, there's some times and spots that he's not exactly ready for it yet. I don't think, unless he comes out in camp and really impresses a lot of people. I'm just concerned that he, again, as we saw, needs a little bit of strength, needs to work on some other things on his game. We saw a lot of promise, his great passing ability, but again, I just want to make sure that he's able to go ahead and handle the rigors of the NBA. And I'm not 100% concerned. I'm not 100% sure that he can handle it right away from day one. But I also will tell you, though, that there are other names out there. If the Lakers are just going to be stubborn and say, fine, Christian Wood, do what you need to do, we'll just go ahead and get someone else like Boban Marinovic. There's a few other centers they could go out and reach out to Enes Kanter, or I know I had got to change his name. I forgot what he changed his name to. Is that
Yes, he did. You're right,
Freedom?
Gerald.
Enes Freedom, I think.
And his
Yeah.
freedom. That's right.
Yes, and his freedom indeed. But they could go ahead and be stubborn like that, or they could bring up Castleton and Hodge and do that, and that's discussion right there. So
Yes.
the more Christian Wood plays it out and thinks that it's going to end up in his hands, you're right. An injury could have a team see his way a little bit stronger, but also could work against him as well.
It can, because what Gerald said is correct. I mean, it could be if he decides that he's going to play this game and wait until training camp. Well, a lot of teams can play the same exact game and wait on the waiver wire before having to sign Christian Wood.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be some players that are going to be cut, like the 14th, 15th, 16th guys on a roster that might have as much talent. I don't say as Christian Wood per se, but might have as much talent as anyone else that's out there at this point in time because PJ Washington is still a restricted free agent, and I don't see Charlotte taking the label off of him and rescinding that offer and making him an available free agent anytime soon. But you could see a point where, I'll be honest with everybody out there. If, let's say, the Oklahoma City Thunder, with their seemingly 90 people on their roster right now, I'm kidding, it's closer to 20, but still, they've got a ton of people on their roster. Let's say they don't have room for Alexa Pokashevsky. I would absolutely be thrilled if Pokashevsky, a guy who I was enamored with, coming into the draft 3 years ago, if he would be able to get an opportunity somewhere else, be it with the Lakers or somewhere else. I would love to see him. That's a 7-footer right there that can play and go, go back and forth, forward and center. And he has a developing 3-point shot. He's just got to stay healthy and absolutely get more strength. I understand that as well. I know he's very thin and slight of build, but I think that he is an NBA worthwhile player. So there, again, the Lakers could wait it out. They could go in the camp with 13 fully committed individuals plus the two ways and the exhibit 10 and some other in training camp invitees and waited out for some people to just be plucked off a roster off another team.
That's it, Gerald. Or Gerald, it needs to be said here, there, like, to me, there's another guy out there who can't get a flyer to save his life, and that's Kelly Oubre. So
Yeah,
as much as it's amazing how much fanfare Wood's getting here, and Oubre's not even getting half that. And that guy um is not a very he's not the shooter Wood is,
no,
obviously, but productive nonetheless, and
yeah,
not a problem. Yet, as Gerald was saying, it doesn't matter. Like, if the NBA wants to freeze you out, they'll freeze you out for whatever reason.
that they will indeed. But once again, it is the Lakers fast break. It is, of course, another snack pack right here for the Lakers and how they will finish out the roster. At least go 14 man because I don't think 15 will probably be the answer for them going into the season. They're going to keep that open for any which way they can go ahead and they can fill that out. But I will say, though, it is great to have you here. It is the Magic Man, Sean Grice, and me, Joe Glassford. Thanks so much for watching and listening, though. Again, their options for the Lakers outside of Christian Wood are running out. Bismack Biyombo, again, someone I would highly advise against because the fact that he just does not give you much as he did, especially on the defensive end. The offensive end, he gives you absolutely nothing. And he's a liability out there once you get to that side of the floor. Of course, you have Boban out there as well,
Mhm.
who's turned into somewhat of a little bit of a comedy act, which is a shame because his early years, he was actually a quite efficient player that could play in this league.
Yeah, he was. For both Houston and that first year in Dallas, he was very
Yeah.
productive. Gerald, absolutely. It's very disappointing to see this because he was also productive, and he can't find an NBA contract right now. It's so strange, but again, Gerald brings this up a lot. Basically every free agency, if the NBA wants to freeze you out, they'll freeze you out. It could be, your hot stuff one year, and then you're nobody wants to touch you with a 99-foot pole in about 6 months, depending on your productivity and/or and anything ancillary going on outside of um, the vicissitudes of an NBA court, which I mean, getting into trouble off the court. So Gerald, my best guess at this situation is that I don't think this gets resolved anytime soon, and I think you're the one who kind of pointed this out a couple weeks ago, that you think Rob Pelinka is just going to sit back, go to stealth mode, go to airplane mode, and wait and see
Mm-hmm.
if Wood and his representation comes back to the Lakers and says, okay, we'll sign the vetman. If you say he's a starter as your center, we'll sign the vetman. That's the only way I could see Rob finally coming out of the cocoon, so to speak, and letting everybody know that Wood's a Laker.
You could go, if JaVale McGee gets waived, you could go back to his route, but then he's past his prime. I think he's past his prime, as we've seen in the past couple of years, him being run out of certain areas, and absolutely he's not on high on the list after signing a big free agent contract with Dallas. And then you have players like Hassan Whiteside still sitting out there that are fresh out of the league, that are looking to try to still get one last gasp at glory. There's not a whole lot out there. There's not a whole lot of options. Just like we talk about where Christian Wood doesn't have a whole lot of options. There's not a whole lot of options for these players or for the Lakers as well.
No, there isn't. There isn't. It's basically like Gerald was saying. You're going through Walmart or you're going through Kmart, and you see some pretty nice things in the discount bin. Um, Turn back, circle the wagons in about 20 minutes, and about half of that stuff that was pretty good in there is gone. And that's kind of where we are now. Half of the really good stuff was gone a couple weeks ago, and now half of that is really gone. So there's almost nothing left. It's pretty much down to the bottom, scraping the barnacles to try and if Wood and Biyombo don't materialize, it's good. Like Gerald and myself were kind of talking about, yeah, it might have to be solved in house organically with Jackson Hayes and Castleton eating up a lot of those minutes, or bringing in another vet and having him. But again, that just creates one problem, trying to solve another one to me. But you're right, Gerald. Push comes to shove, they're going to have to get down soup to nuts and figure this out.
Once again, it is the Lakers Fast Break. Thanks so much again for watching and listening. Truly appreciate it. I wanted to go ahead and mention out that, again, we are most likely going to have, according to what I was told earlier in the show by Jamie Sweet, that we will have a Lakerholics spotlight on Saturday. I don't know if it will continue the feud as far as between him and Laker Tom. If Laker Tom has said he's iffy on being there tomorrow. If not, I told Jamie that one of us could fill out instead. And I don't know if we could provide as much of an argument. Well, yeah, you know what? I think we could argue and disagree, because Jamie is the most adamant of any of our panelists on bringing in Christian Wood.
Mm-hmm.
But I have a feeling, no one gets mad at you. One person in all the time we've been doing this got mad at you. So, I don't think Jamie's going to actually get too mad at us, which should kind of defeat the purpose, would it not?
Yeah, it would, because this is like Gerald was saying, when you're not involved, this is fun.
Yes. We love drama.
And
We love the drama.
As he was saying, behind the scenes, him and myself are both eating the popcorn from the Michael Jackson meme. That is 100% true. I could verify that Gerald is 100% right about that. Hopefully, it eases the tension, Gerald. Time heals all wounds. Hopefully Tom will be back on tomorrow, and we'll get back to a lovey-dovey situation eventually.
Oh, never between those two. Those two are always arguing over something.
Yeah, they're like
this is one of their top 3 arguments, but they're always arguing over something.
Yeah, 100%. They're Statler and what's the other guy's name, Gerald?
Oh, I understand. Yeah, from Sesame Street. I know what
Yeah,
you're talking about. They're from the cheap seats.
Walden, and
Yes.
Statler. Yeah,
Yes.
They're those two guys. They never get along, but one thing they can't agree on is just ripping on one another.
But they both love the Lakers, although, of course, part of the reason why the argument has gotten bad as they did, because someone called out their Laker fandom. And again, you're going to have to go to Lakerholics.com to read the whole story there. But before we head on out, my friend, I want to go ahead and mention something that Derek was saying. And that is on the opposite end. If I'm Wood's agent, he says, I would advise against him signing with the Lakers. I love the Lakers, but Ham burned through 4 centers last season, then couldn't figure out zone defenses aimed at stopping AD. Your thoughts, when you think about it for a second, your thoughts that because he did burn through some centers, the Lakers have burned through a lot of those mediocre centers over the past couple seasons. That's notwithstanding. Actually, since 2020, they burned through their share of either past their prime or mediocre centers. So Empire Jeff TV, actually, it's on their site, Lakerholics.com. I'll go ahead and post it there for you, Empire Jeff. But your thoughts on what actually a very sound reasoning from Derek Mack was talking all about?
Yeah, shout out to Derek Mack. I noticed that comment as well. Very, very, very foresight in that comment. Yeah, he did burn through 4 centers before we even got to the playoffs. And then that was a different story. But regardless, that's correct. Um, for some reason it was confused. There's counterintuitive thoughts going on at the same time with Ham. I think that's what frustrates Zingerstein a lot, especially with a 3 guard lineup. But like for an example, at the beginning of the year when Ham was introducing himself to Laker fans, the one thing he kept harping on was that he wanted to have a starting unit that he could go to consistently, and yet he ended up starting like something ridiculous, like 36, 35 different starting lineups. And Derek Mack astutely pointed out that for a consequence of that, you burn through a lot of your centers, and that has a trickle down effect. It just does. That's just the nature of having only 13 to 15 players on your roster, trying to efficiently manage options, especially with minutes are concerned. And Ham kind of was wishy washy there, Gerald. So that's a great point by Mr. Mack.
Absolutely. So I ask you this, my friend. It's the actual theme of the day. Is it time now for Christian Wood to sign with the Lakers, or do you see it being best for him signing somewhere else or just waiting this whole thing out?
Yeah, I think option 3 is the riskiest of them all. Um, but that might be the option that they go down, Gerald, him and his reps. Um, because at this point in time, like even like I said, watch in the next couple weeks or so if a team that has more than. I think there are a couple teams that need to still, like Gerald was saying, shave off a few roster spots. Utah's one, I believe. I think Houston might be another one. Orlando. So if one or two of these teams that you see waive a player or move on from somebody, that might be a sign that this team is willing to, like Gerald was saying, kind of shave off portion of their MLE or whatever cap space they have left and give it to them for 1 year. But that's, like Gerald was saying, that could be a long road waiting for that to happen too. Specifically because teams could go to other options. If teams really wanted Christian Wood, they would have signed Christian Wood. But now they have their own 2 ways. They have their own G League. They have their own pool of players that they may want to look at. And like we were saying, Gerald, the options are getting slimmer and slimmer for both parties here. So it's almost as if I think one of them sees that. The other one, like I said, I think he's just waiting for a little bit more money. But I think that's not seeing the forest for the trees. You're only looking at the front of the forest there, Gerald. You're not looking at the whole picture.
Absolutely. And we obviously see things, even if we try to, you and I try to keep things as straight and narrow and as, you know, unobjectively as possible, and as far as trying to keep that thing straight down the middle. But we have a tendency still to think with purple and gold, eyelids, purple and gold glasses, purple and gold shades. Not to the point where they're so darkly tinted like Laker Tom is, but when it comes to the Lakers, though, we do hope he signs here because again, right now, unless the Lakers make a trade, I do see him as the best option, being
Yeah.
Christian Wood.
Yes, 100%. With what's left out there, I agree. Barring a trade, he's the best option for the vet min. 100%. Phil checks a lot of boxes. Yeah, there are a lot of X's there too, but as we were saying, and we keep saying, there is enough depth and enough insulation on uh between 1 to 12 where he slots in, and what he does really well can be accentuated on the Lakers, and what he does really badly can be covered up, so to speak.
So I ask you, my friend, is it time to go ahead and just give him an ultimatum with his management team and say, you sign now or we're moving on? Or do you just wait it out? Do you just go ahead and you wait it out until something comes around?
Well, if I'm not mistaken, Gerald, due to the new CBA, the rookie contracts don't need to be locked in until July 31st, right?
Mhm. I believe that's correct.
Yeah, so that's kind of the date I would look at, so to speak. It's kind of like a demarcation line. If
Mhm.
if Wood is not signed with the Lakers, I think by that date, I'm with you, Gerald. I would be Palinka, and I would send them another contract. Look, July 31st is the line of demarcation for us. We need to move on at that point. So here's the contract. It's a vet min with the promise that you will be given the starting center role. Take it or leave it by the end of the day. And then I would leave it at that, Gerald, because you know we're creeping into August here, and Rob and the organization need to start looking at who we bring in for training camp. There's going
They
to
need to
be
go on their vacations
yeah,
too.
exactly. He needs to go on vacation. There needs to be some pre-planning about how training camp's going to go. That's another couple of weeks having meetings upon meetings upon meetings. So it's not as if this thing can drag on any longer than it should. So I would look at a date like July 31st. If nothing's been done there, I would be very, very surprised if he came on board.
And that would be a shame because for him and also for the Lakers, for him more than the Lakers, because the Lakers, you know, with the team that they have now, it's still going to be extremely competitive. We talked about it the other day. I think all of us on the staff, on the panelists, think that the Lakers have a possible 50-win team
Mm-hmm.
that, if healthy, could compete very well in the playoffs, and if things go the right way, can find themselves in a position where they're in the conference finals once again, if all things go well. So I do think that it's better if they do have them as another piece in the arsenal, if they have his mind right and in a good place and be able to contribute. I'm not expecting much more of him in the playoffs. I think he's more of a regular season player. But then again, with a great season and a great follow through in the playoffs, we also thought the same thing with Rui. What could Rui give us in the playoffs? Huh? And we saw what happened there.
And really, Gerald, like what we're talking about is like uh a small amount of money. It's not a big amount of money here.
And he
Eric
can make that
Gordon,
up next year if he has a good
yes,
season
yeah,
this year.
Eric Gordon, despite the criticisms about his durability, when he's available, is a very good shooter, Gerald. And Eric Gordon had to sign a contract for a little over $3 million. Now the
Well,
vet
that's
min,
because he's been wanting to play according to reports for Phoenix for a while. So that
fair,
was kind
fair,
of he probably would have gotten if he would have played it out. He probably would have gotten a little bit higher somewhere else.
yes, but if Wood's thinking, I should be getting 5 or 6, well, maybe, but Eric Gordon is probably worth 5 or 6, and he took a little less than 3.5,
Yeah.
and your vet min is just a little under 2.75 million. Gerald, we're not talking about a huge canyon here when it comes to money in this situation. I understand if you want a couple mil more, but if we're having, conversations where you're hesitating because I'm offering vet min, nobody else can offer you any more than that now. The Bulls can offer you a little bit more, but not more than what Gordon's getting. So to me, this is a situation, Gerald, where honestly, I think if Wood and his reps are just going to wait this out, you're robbing Peter to pay Paul, because I don't think you're going to end up in a situation in a year where you can uh, explore options and a bigger payday, because you're going to be in the exact same position you are now.
And to me, I just think right now that since you decided to go ahead and you signed all these other players and you didn't really make it a priority until the back end where you needed to fill that, last 14th spot with a big man is what your desire is, according to what Rob has said, and now that they put themselves in that position, I think that right now that's probably the best way to go out is just wait this out. Wait this out. And you're hopeful that if all goes well in training camp, something, whether either you get a player like Christian Wood to come on board or something falls through the cracks somewhere else, I think that the Lakers will have it solved. Will it be with the right player? Who knows? Or will it just be another player on the roster? We'll wait and see.
Yes, we'll wait and see, because right now, I don't care about the theoretical Jackson Hayes. The literal Jackson Hayes is good enough to play some backup center minutes, and I'd rather play Jackson Hayes those minutes than Bismack Biyombo. So beyond, I'm in agreement with Gerald.
No
That is
Biombo.
not an option at all. So that again, that leaves either something externally that we haven't even discussed or aren't really seeing, as Gerald has said. Something goes on with a team, and a big man complains about not getting enough playing time. All of a sudden, he's released or put on the waiver wire. Uh, that happens a lot. That happens a lot. Where um, I believe didn't the Thunder pick up Isaiah Joe because of that very reason, Gerald?
That they did, but then
Yeah.
again, yeah,
So
they have other options. That they have other options now that they have, and now that they have 20 players on the roster. I'm just using Oklahoma City as an example, but they have some guys at the back end of that roster and that rotation that could become available. But there are other places as well.
absolutely. And by the way, Rob did pick up additional second round picks. So it's obvious that, as Gerald said, throughout training camp, there may be a phone call from the Utah Jazz or from Sam Presti and say, "Hey, Rob, I know you picked up a couple of second round picks. Care to make a deal?" And Gerald,
What if Olynyk wants to come over?
whoa, yeah, exactly, right. So I mean that's why he picked them up, and it was a very astute move because he's looking into the future. So I agree with you, Gerald. I think he should just sit and wait it out, because like there, I don't know what else needs to happen in that situation. I'm sure Rob has tried to sell him and his reps up and down. Look, this is all I can offer you. This is all we can offer you. It's the vet min, but you start at center. I'm gonna have
Or you
Darvin Ham.
can start it.
You can. Darvin Ham is open to watching you play 25, 28 minutes during the regular season, Christian. As Gerald said, you could average 17 and 10, probably shooting maybe close to 40% from three, and your splits are so good that somebody's going to offer you a payday, whether it's us or somebody else. But that's what we can offer. No more, no less.
Great words there from Magic Man Sean Grice. It is, of course, Gerald Glasser as well. Thanks so much for watching and listening to Lakers Fast Break. We truly appreciate it. If you get a chance, please subscribe today if you haven't already. Hit those little beady eyes on Joe right there below Magic Man. Go ahead and make sure you do, because if you do, you get those latest notifications on when we go live at the latest Lakers Fast Break. Or if you're watching us on Twitter, you're watching us on Twitch, Kick, and all of other our options, please go ahead and follow us and subscribe to us there. But before we head on out, my friend, just some final thoughts on this weekend. I mean, it's going to be a good Lakers weekend. I'm hoping that Jamie Sweet tomorrow, he said around 12 or 1. He hasn't scheduled a timeout as of yet officially. I want to go ahead and see if I can do that. But if I can, I will. But it looks like he will be doing it sometime early tomorrow afternoon. Your thoughts, though, for the Lakers as we head into this weekend?
You know what, Gerald? Still feeling like very good about the outlook of the team, and obviously, these next 6 to 8 weeks will kind of be a slog. But just to let everybody know, myself and hopefully Gerald will definitely be available for the FIBA World Cup, and I think that'll be a great springboard into what should be a very competitive NBA season. Drilled, this season really takes you back to the kind of that 2019 off season when everybody was kind of loading up in the West, ready to draw swords. And there are 5 finals worthy teams right now that you could pick any one of them out of the West. It should be a highly competitive year, and hopefully we'll find the Lakers in the mix.
And the best way to do that is by catching us here at the Lakers Fast Break. Next week, I do want to devote a good portion, unless there's some breaking news that we'll go ahead and have to cover. I want to devote a good portion next week of covering some of these free agent signings and give each and every one a show, a platform to go ahead. So you will learn more about Jackson Hayes. You will learn more about Torian Prince. You will learn more about Cam Reddish coming up on next week's show, the pluses, the minuses, what we think they can do to contribute in the rotation, and why that they are the Lakers. They are a part of the team as well. So definitely want to go ahead and see if we could devote some time for that. Again, I'm still trying to work it out as far as getting some NBA team thoughts from the teams around the NBA, as far as from fans and experts from all around the league. So hopefully we can do that for the month of August leading into September. In the dog days, we're going to keep you busy, hopefully right here at the Lakers Fast Break. So for Magic Man Sean Grice, it's Gerald Glassford. Thanks again for watching and listening. I just got word from Jamie Sweet. He wants to do a show at 1. Will it be with Laker Tom? Who knows? Because we love the drama here at the Lakers Fast Break. Or will it be one of us? We'll go ahead and let you know then. But we've got a 1 o'clock Pacific time Lakerholic spotlight set for you, because it's still going to be a great Lakers weekend, regardless of the feuding. We're still going to make it happen for you. And we're going to make it happen here at the Lakers Fast Break Podcast. Have a good evening, everyone. Stay safe and see you this weekend.